G'day friends and fans. Welcome to Dave Talks Stuff Ukraine and War Update for the 26th of December 2025. Now the question is, will the war end in 26? Now before I get to that question, let's do a quick update of the battlefield situation, because there's a lot of false reporting about the progress of this war. Now, yesterday was a rapid. Now, despite Russia's setback in Kupiansk, Russia still made significant gains yesterday and the day before. And they've made gains again today. Now, not all combat is reported. There are sporadic bursts of fire and artillery fire across the front. Now, most of the time, these combat actions are not very long. Some are, in fact, exactly that, sporadic bursts and artillery fire. I believe most of the time the engagements that result in casualties are reported. Now, why would there be sporadic fighting? Why would there be gunfire and artillery if there's no wounding? Well, that's because a lot of the time it is they send a drone, it gets shot down, that's it, end of story, nothing else happens. But Ukraine is hit with drones. Zelensky's barking and asking for more money. He's trying to manipulate the whole peace process to make it out that he is Captain Skysheild protecting Europe, and that only he and he alone can bring peace to Ukraine. Why? Because he's a dud-grab grifter, and nobody in Ukraine has the guts to put him in the ground. But that will change. He is about as popular as a fart in an elevator, and by fart I mean a wet and sloppy one. Now, the question, of course, is, will Russia end the war in 26? Well, let's look at the map. They've made gains and they're attacking Ukraine on multiple fronts, but most of their gains are small. There's no way they're going to take all of Ukraine in the next 6 weeks unless they dramatically carry out a number of changes to their military operations. But since they're casualty adverse, don't want to conquer all Ukraine or start a wider war, they are taking their time, and Putin is not under political pressure to end this war. Of course, the mainstream media speculate. Now, whenever you read a mainstream media story, you'll see the following words: may, concern. And they always frame it as a question. See, because of the principles of uncertainty, you're going to imagine that they have some information and Putin in trouble is exciting, gripping, where in reality he and his generals are flying around, watching the war from a comfortable distance, making minor adjustments to strategy, and of course nobody seems to care what I say, but I'm telling you, I figured out most of Russia's strategy here. And, of course, most of their strategy is revolving around a series of death traps where they find something important to Zelensky's ego, such as Kupiansk, and they attack it, and they slowly gnaw at it, like they chew on it, like a lion cleaning his teeth on a big juicy bone. You know, he's just finished his steak and he's just munching on the bone. And Ukrainians flood in, going sloppy Ukrainian, no heroes die, and boom, they get annihilated. But Russia doesn't annihilate them straight away. That would be too easy. No, they engage them in battle, keep them busy, keep them fearing for their lives, and of course keeping them dug in buildings, waiting for the boogeyman to come for them. Oh, the boogeyman, the Putin! The Putin is under every bed! We got to root out the Putin! And of course, as soon as Russia gets enough idiots into Kupiansk, they attack the Lyman area. And then when Ukraine puts enough men into the Lyman area, they go back to attacking somewhere else. But Kupiansk is a bear trap. So is this little part here. And, of course, as you see, the Russians have moved towards Lyman. They've extended their hold on the area around Silvesk. And you can see, all right, in one day they've advanced 2 kilometres yesterday, not today. Today they've only got a little bit south here and take a little bit here and there, but nothing significant so far. In fact, some areas are bogged down. Again, the bear trap. Because there's so many men in Konsk, wear them down, let them settle in, and then go for other areas. Wind them up, and then boom, Russia's taken territory. Boom, Russia keeps this little bear trap going, while they take territory elsewhere. Russian assault forces have entered Hulapol. Of course, this is to drawing men in. Now, Omsk is another bear trap. Honestly, I think most of these bear traps, once Russia's ready, we'll see where they'll form the line, right? It's often my opinion that they're going to be not the current borders, right? But rather cut through Zaporozhye, up through here, and up through here. I think all along they want Kupiansk to be the border. I think they grab a few sections, but at the same time they're sticking a crayon up Zelensky's nose. After all, his lone brain cell gets lonely, and they twist it around, make him irritated. Putin loves to get up, Zelensky said. Zelensky is such a thin-skinned little rodent. He's a rat. He cries whenever he's criticized. He can't take criticism. He thinks he's above criticism, above the law. The Zelensky rules. So, in reality, right, the massive economy of Russia is standing there like the 6'6" Viking with his hand on the head of the 4'0" villager, and he's chugging away with his hand on the villager's head as the villager lashes out violently. And then when the Viking has finally finished his fill, he'll take his glass, smack the villager over the head. If he dies, he dies. And then he takes what he wants and leaves. Well, in this case, takes what he wants. And that is where we get to, will they finish? Well, Mansur Miloyev is full of shit, saying that Russian soldiers are terrified of the Ukrainians. They hide in the trenches. However, that does not mean that Kiev can dictate the war. Russia has a bigger war chest, more servicemen, a stronger economy. Ukraine is outmanned and outgunned. They can see the enemy. They can strike it. But they have no artillery shells to strike it with. See, Russia is the big man with his hand on the head of little Ukraine, and little Ukraine is trying to kick him in the testes or the shins, and Russia's sick at the little man, always trying to kick him in the shins. But it's so aggressive! We have to liberate our lands to post-Soviet borders. Of course, not to their original borders, pre-Soviet era borders. No! Because that means Ukraine will have less land, even less land, because they have to get back to Poland and Romania. See, this is what they don't tell you. Right? Ukrainians are assholes, okay? They are selfish, they are belligerent, they are obtuse. They want the Finnish scenario, okay? The Finnish scenario. Remember, Finland surrendered, got 99% of its land back, and that little chunk they lost, which I still don't understand why Stalin wanted it in the first place. I think it was only because on the other side there was a German base, right? Or what they thought was a German base. I am not. I think both Stalin and Finland, was stupid, right? Stalin made an unreasonable request and Finland had made an unreasonable response. But it was all for nothing, okay? This is the Finland scenario, right? They want their ego, okay? They want to finish this war with their ego intact. It ain't happening, right? We have Finland, even today, claiming, no, we didn't fight, we're for the fascists. No, we fought for ourselves, our pride. No, you fought for the fascists, okay? You wanted to test out Russia's resolve. You fucked around and found out. Ukraine fucked around and found out. But what this article tells me, Ukraine wants out. That's why they get some snotty news ex-serviceman who knows everything about the war because he lost his foot on the front line. Wow. Oh, he's an ex-military chief and analyst who lost his foot on the front line. Yeah. And suddenly, right, despite the fact he has an article full of errors, that he's an expert. Where in reality, this is the reality. Everybody's been saying this, so he's not an analyst, right? He's just another cheap slop tuber. But the reality is, how often, right, have the Ukrainian armed forces claimed to celebrate Christmas, but they refused a ceasefire, and they attacked Russia after being asked about a ceasefire, which Putin took as a no, they don't want one. Yeah, so go fuck yourselves, Ukraine. You're about as Christian as Satan. Actually, Satan's more Christian than a Ukrainian. At least Satan can quote the Bible properly. Now, Russia's been under attack by Ukrainian drones, and of course, this is all about the war's real goal is the manipulation of the price of oil, folks, and to force Europe to buy expensive oil from the rest of the world because the rest of the world's economies suck worse than the crippled economies of Europe. But Poland sent a flight to intercept the those Russians off the coast. They were near, not in. They were in international airspace. There was no reason for Poland to stir the pot other than to swing their dick around and say, look at us, we made the news, everybody. But of course, most people hate the fact that Trump is trying to bring out, but peace. Well, Keir Starmer wants a war because those pesky white people won't roll over and die. They won't stop protesting. But now he's starting to lose Labour support and he's really panicking because Labour don't want to fight this war. They already said that. Oh no, you can't send us. Send those pesky refugees. No, I'm not sending the refugees. They'll all go home. Oh no, said the Reform voters. Oh no, that would. Oh, please stop promising us a good time. Oh, Polish F-16. Oh, look at us in our little borrowed planes. Oh, it's so clever. It was near our airspace. It was ours. And what was it doing? Tracking smuggling balloons? So, the Russian reconnaissance aircraft was in a legitimate law enforcement role, tracking balloons launched by smugglers into Belarus from Poland. And Poland decides to protect the criminals. But the Polish still admit to unknown objects. So, yeah. Russia discovered one of NATO's illegal operations, and Poland had a hissy fit. Actually, I might change the title of that. This sounds much better. But Russian troops have liberated another town, inflicting casualties on the Ukrainians. Again, the number of casualties are minor, indicating that most of the war is noise and not high intensity, that it's probably a few missile trucks, not... Could you imagine? This is not even a tenth of the scale of the Iraq War, right? So it's hard to imagine. But yeah, Kiev has lost another 1,000 men. And Zelensky just doesn't even bat an eyelid, you know? He's a psychopath. But in other news, water's wet. And Ukraine is a corrupt victim's den, says Hunter Biden. That he'd been naive about the kleptocracy in the country. Yeah, well, isn't it amazing how Democrats say nothing for years? Hashtag Trump was right. But, you know, the Biden family, you know, Burisma, he sought assistance from the US ambassador. If he did all this in real time, he'd probably have a decent political career for himself by now. But of course, Democrats always, right? They delay, they obfuscate, they want to manipulate the public perception. And the thing is, right, he's guilty of tax evasion, right? Over his job in Ukraine and other jobs that he had. His consultancy. See, he just wanted to cover up the fact he had it. He's a nepo, okay? These people can't get ahead without some nepotism along the way. Oh, something happened here. All right, refresh. Oh, story changed. No, Russia and US agreed to continue dialogue after reaching an agreement. But the agreement is, I believe, to continue talking. That they have several... They're making progress, working out the deal. And as I said, Russia always has the ONSK option. That is the ONSK missile system to carry both nuclear and conventional warheads. Now, I know, it's a big secret, but it's probably 5,000, well, around 3,000 miles. But I think recently, given its status and deployment, that in order to achieve hypervelocities, most of it is climb and fall, which will give it actually a bigger range. But yeah, say 5,000 on its fastest burn at its maximum speed and maximum angle of trajectory from launch. Now that could be increased by air launching, though, the tactical lift platform, this would be the TU 160, or a Russian rocket as a booster. But yeah, the ONSC solution. So remember, non-nuclear can wipe out a couple of city blocks instantly, up to 2-mile radius. With the if it was just short range, lots of rocket fuel, and maximum up-down impact. There's lots of factors that determine explosive radius, particularly the explosive, of course, but it's also the amount of secondary fuel, the type of fuel. Pretty sure that this is standard rocket fuel with your Russian high explosive, highly volatile. So they'll add some hydrogen or something to it to, some highly combustible, but quickly expanding. So to do that, it'll be some sort of ball of hydrogen compressed in a compound that'll highly oxidize when exposed to the atmosphere and expand at the same time. Remember, it's mostly the shock wave, right? Most of your damage is from the shock wave, not the fire. They're not really interested in the fire. They're interested in the shock wave. They want to maximize damage. So the ONSC solution is, right, quite simple. I've said it before. I'll say it again. Pick a city, any city, right? Each province, they'll pick a town or a city and go Dnipro, Kavichy, one of their favorite targets. They'll grid it, 24 to 36 missiles in a 20-kilometer grid. They won't destroy everything, but they'll destroy a lot. And they'll hit it, bang, one day. Instead of hitting Ukraine at random with 30 missiles a week, one day, bang, 20 to 36 in one city. Then they'll go, next target. Will you surrender? No. Okay, this city is now targeted. You have 24 hours to evacuate. And then 24 hours later, when they'll hit it. Now, of course, that will mean Ukraine will try and move in their defences and all that. Right? So they'll smother it with drones first and then hit it with missiles. They will literally cook the city. Each city. I think Ukraine will be completely cooked. They will not give in. Absolutely. But what will happen is the ultimatum, right? You don't surrender, we're going to keep going. Ukrainians will throw Zelensky into the fires of hell, and immediately the whole country would surrender. Now, Putin doesn't want the whole country. He's made that clear, which is why we haven't got the ONSC that far yet. But he will eventually get sick of the little putts, right? He knows the coward is hiding in Poland because thumbing his nose at him, because that's what cowards do, but they act tough, that you can't get me, and all the little snickering high schoolers go, ha ha ha, you got out, he's making fun of you, ha ha, right? All these socially retards who can't comprehend normal thinking, can't understand normal thinking, right? They have no idea, right, that Russia don't care, right, how much you tease him or call him the Putin, so that you don't go to Russia. You're safe, right? It's, he don't care about Zelensky. In fact, he keeps Zelensky alive because he's such an engrossing incompetent. Ukraine should have put, with the United States' help, right, 5 years ago, 1, 2, 3 lines. They could have absorbed the shock of the Russian invasion, which they initially pushed back, and then solidified and manned all the stations and kept them back. But they didn't. They decided to go through fortress towns and sit in bunkers. And Russia went around them and pretty much cooked the bunkers. Now that we're getting close to the end of the war, we can tell, right? We could tell, right, that if Russia really wanted more of this, it wouldn't be he's only slowing down the Ukrainians. If he wanted to, he'd destroy these. He would have destroyed these towns already, 10 times over with the amount. Instead, he's hitting them here and there at random, seemingly random. They prioritizing targets, but most of the time, a lot of these targets, tank here, a truck there, aren't really that big, right? Often targeting Ukrainian officials, former officers. Russia's wearing them down, and eventually, right, the Ukrainians will get sick of Zelensky, and I think that's the primary strategy, right? Get sick of the war, get sick of Zelensky, get sick of his childish, egotistical delay tactics, sick of him never in the country, sick of him only posing for the cameras. And then, one day, Justin Trudeau, he'll wake up and his own party is carrying him to the border and saying, unceremoniously dumping him. In Zelensky's case, it'll be in a grave. The British intelligence, they don't fuck around. They're going to pull out. They're going to protect Keir Starmer, their little boy. They'll clean up in Ukraine, make sure that the Ukrainian boy buggerers disappear, and all this corruption. Nothing will blow back on Sir Two-Tier, and that's what they do. They're not there to protect Britain. They're there to protect the establishment. They're sellouts. They're naive muppets who have no integrity, no morals. They believe in winning at any cost, and they believe this war is justified. But at the end of the day, it ain't British soil, so they don't care. Poland, Hungary, and Romania, however, are still paranoid, delusional. But at least Hungary's woken up a little bit and saying, this war, we don't want to be on the front line of the Russian war. And Romania's starting to go, wait a minute, if we get destroyed, how are we going to rebuild? And then Hungary says, that's the point, right? Our economies go down, Western Europe's go up. And Poland's going, nah, they won't do that to us. They need us. No, they don't. Remember when Poland was the darling child of the British import? Used to be Polish that were illegals in Britain, and everybody tolerated Poles would get all the lorry jobs and all the plumbing and all the other jobs. But now, suck it up, Poland. You're not the darling of Europe anymore, and you just haven't caught on. So eventually, this war will just keep on exposing, and eventually Poland and Donald Tusk will realise that giving in to the EU was the biggest mistake of his career. He's going to be ousted. But this is the problem, isn't it? It takes so long in politics sometimes for karma to come and finally punish these bozos, but it will. Your sins are no longer tolerated. People are starting to realize that politicians are a cancer on society. And right now, they're looking at people like Donald Trump and other outsiders like Giorgia Meloni and Viktor Orban to see if they can replicate the populist movement, because they realize that the best popular revolution is voting people out, and that is going to be the way it goes in the future. You fuck around, you find out. You won't last. There won't be term limits in a lot of... I reckon America will soon get rid of term limits, and what instead will happen is you're just voting people out, it's better that way, rather than, somebody, these popular polls and all this won't matter. People get sick of them pretty soon. Governments will have to sort themselves out, because they may find themselves a year in and suddenly they'll get called to an election. But of course Gavin Newsom survived that, and that's why it hasn't happened again yet, but it eventually will. Eventually it will. Tim Walz, I don't know. But eventually there'll be a protest vote, a recall vote, and a popular governor or a big corrupt governor will be thrown out, and it'll get more and more popular across the country. Liberals will start trying to organise protest votes all the time, but eventually it will bite them on the ass as well. So thank you all for watching. We're watching things happen in slow, right? It's not a daily occurrence. Changes are happening in politics over time. So a lot of my predictions may not come true straight away or for a long time, but there are changes and there's signs pointing to that, to the popularity of direct voting and getting rid of term limits. But at the same time, so if you don't like a politician, right, instead of going through the whole process of primaries and all this, no, you put all the candidates on every Super Tuesday, all the candidates, whether they're past, present, future, every year it's an election, and people are first getting sick of it, but then people will go, yeah, at least if he fucks up, he's gone the next year, you know what I mean? And eventually there'll be just a few people standing every year. Elections will be quick and easy. Most people won't turn out to vote, but those who do, if you don't, you don't. It's on you. If you don't, you'll vote, but you get the vote next year. If you regret you're not voting this year, you'll go next year. It'll be quite quick turnover of governments for a while, but it'll slow things down, bring in better governments, because they'll now have to tiptoe their entire career. So thank you for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe. Please support the channel. You can support me on Patreon. Ko-Fi, Patreon, buy my books, buy merch, all my links in the link tree, description below, or in my profile. Thank you. I appreciate each and every one of you. See you in the next video, and bye for now.